that's partnering with Head Start programs all over the United States. And so we're excited to get started. In fact, we have a very diverse, geographically diverse representation here on this webinar today, which I'll tell you in just a second. But Patty and I are actually at the Region 9 Family Engagement and Cultural Effectiveness Conference. And one of the quotes that I heard that I wanted to share with you just yesterday at this conference was this from the Office of Head Start and the National Center for Families, Parents, and Community Engagement. It says, you and your program are in a unique position to promote children's well-being today and in the future by engaging their children and families. Parents and family members are the forever people in a child's life. They will shape their child's sense of self, others, and the world over the years and across the miles. And that's why we're excited today to talk specifically about that partnership with families. And as we deepen our partnership and our work and our collaboration with families, a big part of that is the data, that true story and picture of what that engagement means in a child's life, and then in our overall data stories as programs and as educators. So with that, please allow me to introduce our panelists today. We're honored to have Victoria Jones, the National Head Start Association Senior Manager of Data and Research. And she's joining us from New York City, all the way across the country. And I'm also pleased, Victoria will be speaking first, and I'm also pleased to introduce Patty Hinojosa, who is our ReadyRosie trainer and Head Start consultant and has a long background and history in supporting Head Start goals and initiatives in her career. So I'm excited to turn it over. We're going to take off our camera for a few minutes while our amazing presenters talk through their slides, but then we'll be back on to pick some winners of our brand new Dr. Karen Matt's latest book called Powerful Partnerships. So with that, Victoria, I'll turn it over to you.
All right, thanks so much, Emily. And hello to everyone who's out there all across the country. I am here to talk to you today about how you can co-create data with families in order to tell their stories, support them and their children, and drive success for all. And as the data and research dork at NHSA, as I'm usually, I think, fondly called, I'm really excited to be kind of connecting the family piece and the data piece together for you guys. So instead of starting with a really long history of data and Head Start and how we landed where we are today, I want to give you more of the kind of modern, forward-looking context for where we are and where we're going when it comes to data. So when you think about data and Head Start, I imagine many of you think of the PIR and the more than 680 questions you have to answer per grant every year. This number was in the 400s range back in 2004. So the number of data elements alone, just for the PIR, has grown by more than 50% in the last 15 years. And while the PIR alone is a ton of data points, it doesn't even include all the individual child and family level data that you're recording in your programs, from screenings to health events, developmental assessments, family strength and needs assessments, and more. So all told, there is a lot of data collected in Head Start, which I'm sure is no surprise to you. But the unfortunate thing is, when you think about it, how much of this data is particularly useful to you every day in your program? And I'm sure while some of it is, a lot of it is also data that you really just check or collect for compliance. And there's value in that, in reporting information to Congress and the administration and the American public about what we're doing in Head Start. But the overall purpose of data collection and data use is really not just for compliance. So the way that we really see that data should be used in Head Start is for serving children and families as best as you possibly can, for constantly improving, asking and answering questions, and making changes to be more efficient, more productive, more successful. So next slide, please. So where are we in this push towards using data for quality improvement? This push really began back in about 2014 with NHSA's Investing in Impact Working Group, which was a group of practitioners that was committed to identifying the outcomes that we actually want for children and families in Head Start, which led to the picture on the left there, the Moneyball for Head Start report, which came out in 2016, which was the product of several organizations in addition to NHSA working together. And in that report, we outlined a vision for using data, evidence, and evaluation to improve outcomes at all levels of the Head Start program. Then when the new or revised Head Start program performance standards came out in late 2016, they really codified this requirement to use data to inform your practice and to use quality improvement tools to improve outcomes for your families. So NHSA continues to support the field in this space, and we launched the Data Design Initiative, the picture at the bottom, nearly a year ago at this point to support this general effort. The goal of the Data Design Initiative is to improve your capacity in the field to use data and evidence to support children and families. And the initiative includes projects in a wide variety of areas, from pushing the vendors you buy from to improve their products, to cutting down the time and subjectivity of your child assessments, to doing trainings for data analytics and visualization, and providing sample job descriptions to help you hire or contract good data staff and contractors. So all of this to say is that data is both the present and the future of Head Start. And we're really excited to be a part of that and to see that so many people are interested in learning how they can be a part of that as well. But when we talk about data, we're not meaning that you need to be constantly typing into spreadsheets and analyzing complex reports. You know, the data that you see, quote unquote, on a daily basis should be visual and it should be simple with all the complex stuff happening in the background. But this data should really be informative. It should help tell you what's going well, what needs improvement, and how to best perform each day. Next. So what does this look like when we talk about using data with families? And just as a crucial element of the Head Start model itself is working with families in addition to children, we have to involve families in the conversation when it comes to data. And so this kind of idea that I've written out here is to think about this as a conversation informed by data, not a conversation about data. So not recommending that you bring some giant complicated spreadsheet to your parent-teacher meetings, because I assure you the parents want to look at a giant Excel spreadsheet just as much as you do. And so instead, it's really letting that information be informing what you're discussing with parents. And so there are kind of two main components of parents and data and how they interact. And the first of those is, go back, sorry. Collecting data from parents and using it to inform your program practice, and then sharing data from your program with parents to help them and their children grow. And these really form a loop. So you already collect information from parents about their strengths and their needs and the goals they've set for themselves and their children, and that informs what you do in your program. And then based on what you're doing in your program, you can use that information and the data that comes with that to communicate back with parents and continue the conversation about their strengths and needs and goals and what progress they're making. So instead of kind of lecturing on the principles, quote unquote, of using data and how it should or shouldn't be used, I want to share with you a few examples of actually having data-informed conversations with Head Start families. And these are coming from programs that have used NHSA's parent engagement measurement tool, which is called ParentGauge. And I won't get all the way into that, but I will tell you the tool itself is a guided interview with parents to help you as a program understand their relationship with their children and their relationship with their program, so that it can help you improve your parent engagement practices based on the parents who are actually in your program, and it can help you work with the children and the parents themselves. And I think that's enough background. So now we can go to the next slide. So one example of a conversation where you're really creating data with parents and using data to just inform the conversation with them is actually from one of our ParentGauge users who was looking at their regular child development assessments and noticed that there was a child in their classroom who was falling behind on literacy development in particular. And even compared to the rest of the class who was getting the same kind of experience in class every day, was not advancing as far in literacy skills as they would have anticipated. So they took, from looking at that assessment data, they identified something and then went over and looked at their parent engagement data in ParentGauge to see if there was any information there that could inform them about this difference with this one child. From looking at that data, they were able to see that the parents actually didn't really understand the importance of reading to the child at home and weren't really doing that. And so what that allowed them to do was take that background information, that data piece, and sit down with a conversation with the parents and talk to them and really be able to show them, that their child is falling behind in literacy, and here's how we can see that, and here's a way for them as parents to be really supportive of helping their child advance in his literacy skills, and how important it was for them to play that role. Now, once you get through that, right, there's the opportunity to look at how the child is doing later and check later on to see, have the parents been increasing the amount that they've been reading to the child, and are we seeing the child's literacy development grow? Because that's a great opportunity for the parents to know as well how much of an impact they're having on their child's development. Next. Another example from this is a program that did all of their interviews and was then looking at their program as a whole, and noticed that from the ParentGauge survey, parents were reporting wanting more positive discipline strategies. They could see in the data that parents weren't reporting that they had very many kind of positive discipline strategies for working with their child, and they didn't feel like the program was supporting them in understanding and implementing positive discipline strategies. So the program is able to take this background information and say, well, we were already planning on implementing a new parent curriculum this year and pilot testing it, and now we have some background information from what the parents have shared with us to know that we want to focus in particular this coming year on positive discipline strategies. And that will help us evaluate whether this new parenting curriculum is working for our parents and is a better fit for our program. So based on that information, you can actually measure change and collect feedback. I apologize, that word got cut off, and that's my fault. But you can measure change and collect feedback from parents through these surveys to understand if that information is making it all the way through when you're connecting with parents and serving them with the types of support that they're really looking for from your program. Next. And then finally, what I hope we can see in the coming years, and Patty will talk about this in just a couple minutes, is perhaps this example that we could see, which is we all set goals in your program with the families that you're working with. And a great opportunity to use data to inform the conversation and co-create data with the parents is to look at ReadyRosie data, to look at parent engagement data, and to look at child assessment data, and use that to have a conversation with families about the alignment or misalignment between what they're doing with their children and what they're doing in their families and the goals that they've set for themselves. And you can help them see, based on the goals that you've set for you and the goals that you've set for your kids, where this is where we're seeing progress. It's aligning well with this area that you're focusing on in the ReadyRosie work that you're doing. Or perhaps it's not, and maybe we wanted to see more progress and you wanted to advance further over here, and you're not seeing quite as much of that, and we can see that coming together from a few different places, and here's an opportunity for us to use that to inform how we can help you more, what you want to go focus on in particular, etc. And so each of these examples, I know I've gone through them quickly, but is just meant to help you see what a conversation informed by data looks like with parents, because none of this really requires you to print out a fancy spreadsheet and put it in front of parents and expect them to understand it, but you can use the information that you've collected from assessment data and parent engagement data and ReadyRosie data to have that conversation and inform that loop of data coming from parents to your program and from the program to parents while you all work together in support of the same goals. So with that, I am going to pass it over to Patty.
Victoria, thank you so much for that excellent overview. As you stated, data truly is the present and the future of Head Start. And if it's visual, simple, and informative, like you said, that really can form the basis of conversations. with families and really empower those conversations. So I'm going to turn it over to Patty now to walk us through specifically what that co-creation can look like.
Hey everyone, I'm very excited and I'm very privileged to be here today with all of you today. My life career with Head Start has been just evolving around family engagement for the last 23 years, and I was very privileged to have the opportunity to implement ReadyRosie in the program that I worked for. So as we're talking on the topic of data, these slides just kind of recollected how I felt as I was collecting data from different sources. And, you know, sometimes data may be considered, as you're thinking about it, could be something positive, it could be something negative, it could be something neutral. But, you know, what we want to share with you today is the opportunities, the exciting opportunities for all of you to be able to co-create data with families, the ability to offer families that learning opportunity to understand how they impact their own children's measurements. And so as we're looking at data, children are truly the heart of meaningful data. We here at ReadyRosie believe that children, not only are the heart of meaningful family data, but also their families, as they truly understand the role that they place in supporting their children with meeting their own educational outcomes. Families are inspirations for positive, goal-oriented, strong relationships with teachers and families as well. Everyone in Head Start programs and school districts, they aggregate data to demonstrate learning outcomes throughout the year. But what's exciting is we here at ReadyRosie believe that when schools and families work together, they can measure and celebrate their successes as partners hand in hand together. So here at ReadyRosie, I want to share with you just some of the tools that have been implemented to support all of you with just the beginning of capturing data. Every ReadyRosie video is now aligned to two separate sets of outcomes: learning opportunity outcomes and family learning outcomes. Head Start and early Head Start programs have a long history of partnering with families to achieve family goals and lasting positive change for children and families. We also have a history of honoring families and support families with home experiences by teachers customizing playlists, supporting that two-way communication with families, and then also measuring family outcomes. In addition, we know through research that family engagement plays a major role in children's outcomes. We've aligned our videos with the Head Start and early Head Start early learning outcomes framework to support your work in identifying the key domains that families may be working on as goals or as an agency. You may be working on developing your school readiness goals. And this is an opportunity that you can also link our activities to support identifying those certain strategies for families to complete at home with their children. Our work also here at ReadyRosie supports the relationship-based competencies. We're taking a holistic approach, gaining skills, working alongside families to build on strengths and support families as advocates and leaders for their children and community. As you begin to think about how families can co-create data as partners and educate families on the importance of data, you are truly supporting families taking on leadership and advocacy roles for their children as they transition to elementary schools. So how can we co-create data with families that supports family measurements of success? I'd like to show you an example here of one of our data reports that is able to demonstrate the district level of measurements of success. Here's a sample taken from one of our ReadyRosie schools with a funded enrollment of 300 students in the program. We encourage programs to set agency goals of how many families they'd like to see registered and using ReadyRosie. One measurement of success can surely be demonstrated by the growth of users in a year's time. In addition, programs are able to view the amount of users connected, but also the age groups. From an administrator view, it's exciting to see how many teachers are sending playlists out to families to further support family opportunities, co-creating that data as partners. And also, as they like and comment videos, they're also supporting the start of beginning to gather the data that all of you are able to see with the communication that's taking place. So how do we include families with co-creating data to tell their unique individual story? We're here to support your roles, building partnership with families, providing hands-on experiences, and nurturing children's development. We understand your mandates to use child and family data to make those critical data-driven decisions, and most importantly, help families to understand their data to support their children's progress and development. Here you'll see we have a library of over 1,200 videos that families can select from based on their interests. We're excited for families to start the co-creation of data by viewing our model moments, practicing this skill at home, liking the videos, and then also the opportunity to provide that two-way communication with teachers. And this is just the beginning of creating their own personal data stories. As a family continues to play, nurture, and build relationships with their children, this is a sample of the data families can see of how they've contributed to their own family outcomes. What an exciting view to see extended learning opportunities grow in a day, a month, and a year. As teachers and family service workers meet with families, this is an opportune time to check in with families and just take the opportunity to celebrate those family learning outcomes. Here's an example of a student-level measurement of success. We provide families and educators with a new lens to see the new learning opportunities available within everyday family interactions. Beginning this school year, every ReadyRosie modeled moment video is now tagged within our share system to 2 to 4 learning outcome categories in the contents areas of health and well-being, social-emotional learning, language and literacy, and math and reasoning. This tagging alignment was created by a very thorough review of the Head Start Early Learning Outcome Framework, the Common Core Standards, state-specific academic standards or guidelines, and the Collaborative for Academic Social and Emotional Learning Competencies. As our team analyzed and unpacked these expectations for schools and centers, we carefully considered how to translate and apply them within the context of the family. Some key questions we ask of each standard are, how can a family build background on this concept and or share the assets they already have with their child's teacher? How can a family provide ongoing practice with this skill or concept? How can a family apply this skill or concept with a real-world conversation? In short, the opportunities are everywhere, and we're excited to be able to provide this new lens on learning as a tool to help families and schools work more easily together to close the opportunity gap. As we continue to view individual family data, our reports are designed to identify families' needs, strengths, and interests that support family well-being. As you'll see, families are co-creating data as they select videos that capture their true interests, including the number of times videos are viewed by families, when videos were liked or maybe disliked. But most importantly, you'll see the capturing of that ongoing communication, building those relationships with teachers. Families and teachers also have the ability to continue to use this platform to discuss any type of questions, maybe also to provide any type of additional support, resources, activities. That is all captured on this data report. So how will you incorporate your co-created family ReadyRosie data, showcasing your family data stories? You may want to perhaps link your data to your family partnership agreements by supporting family goals with activities to prepare children for transition to kindergarten. In addition, you may allow families the opportunity to share their personal data as you share an overview of how their data is further supporting your PFCE and your early learning outcome framework goals. As you prepare for ongoing monitoring meetings, consider using our co-created family data to report how families are identifying key family interests to support your ongoing family engagement planning. Take every opportunity to share at your health, disability, nutrition, school readiness meetings with all of your family data that's co-created by families. You may also want to invite a ReadyRosie parent leader to share their personal learning outcomes and how they use their own personal data to track their own family outcomes. We know that you will choose the best data to highlight your family strengths and outcomes to demonstrate your ongoing measurements of success.
Thank you. Thank you, Patty. Thank you, Victoria. Patty, I especially liked how you even started your sharing with a different framework or a different lens about even thinking about data that actually it's an exciting opportunity where sometimes we think of data collection as overwhelming, as burdensome, as one more thing, as like Victoria mentioned, an endless spreadsheet. But it really is an exciting opportunity, especially when it's visualized and clear, and it empowers conversations, and it empowers and affects change. So with that, we appreciate your time. I'd like to open it up for a time of question and answer. We have the ability here for you all to chat in either through the questions. In Zoom, the platform we use, there's a Q&A section. There's also a chat section. So I'd love for you to chime in and feel free to chat any questions that you have, or even reflections or responses from this time. While you all are thinking about those concepts, I wanted to actually ask both of I'll start us off with one question here today. One of my questions for both Patty and Victoria is how should a program, whether it's a family advocate or a classroom teacher, introduce families to this concept of co-creating data? How do you see that introduction going? How would you advise us to kind of start that conversation with families? And Victoria, I'm going to make sure. Victoria, you're not muted, are you?
I'm back. I'm here.
Good. Patty, do you want to take a first stab at that?
Yes. So it's exciting as families are registered and participating in your program. Many opportunities to introduce the concept of co-creating data. My suggestion would be to start with your policy council and to really set the stage there for your year of implementing ReadyRosie and the unique ways that families do have that opportunity to co-create that data throughout the year. I would also take advantage of your parent meetings. Include sharing the ReadyRosie data that shows the registered users, the amount of videos that are being used, or viewed, and then also giving families the opportunity to share their experiences and how they're incorporating this in their families as well. I think this is the best practice to implement ReadyRosie, and that's just the beginning discussions of families actually having that autonomy to create and co-create with staff data.
Thank you, Patty. Victoria, anything that you'd like to add on to that, introducing families, especially to those data-informed conversations that you were talking about?
Yeah, I think what Patty suggested about working with your policy council is a great way. We found that a lot of programs are really strong about, when they're implementing a new tool or a new plan, about working with their policy council and showing it to the parents and involving them in the conversation. And I think kind of with anything, it's best to phrase things not as this is what we have to do now, but more, especially when it comes to data, and data can feel like something that you just kind of have to do. But if instead it can really be shared as, this is what we're hoping to start doing as a way to get better information and start better conversations with each other, can hopefully be a way for people to see the benefits of what you're trying to do instead of making it feel like one more thing that you're piling onto their plate.
Absolutely. I think that's a beautiful way. And that's really the way we talk about all family school partnerships. Those partnerships is that really, let's look at the benefit. Let's look at how our collaboration could really impact what we're all here about, which is the child. Victoria, I'm going to open it up to some. We've gotten in some questions in our Q&A, and I'm going to open it up to view those. But while we're opening that, I had one other question for you. You mentioned how visual, simple, and informative data should be, and I was wondering if you have, even reflecting in your own work around data and research, any principles or best practices you can share with us about how to make that, how to really visualize data in a meaningful way. If there's any tips or guidelines or best practices, especially when it comes to really making that data accessible, not only for us as educators, but as we're in that partnership with families, if there's things we can do to really visualize that to enhance that conversation. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of kind of directions I could go with that. And the truth is, getting a real complex and kind of comprehensive answer to that question is one of the things that we're working on with the Day Design Initiative, and knowing that not everyone out there, or most people out in the Head Start field, don't have kind of the capacity or the time, and even I don't have the time to sit and take like all of this information we have in a big spreadsheet and, you know, learn how to use Tableau or Microsoft Power BI and turn it into this beautiful like heat map that can really help people, you know, see something and understand it immediately when they take a look. But I think the kind of overall principles that we're going for and trying to understand and trying to get our data systems to work to our benefit for is to be just as simple as possible. You know, get 3 levels more simple than you were thinking, and to be really, really clear about what you're trying to show when you are creating a graph or visualization. You know, if someone has to sit and read through a whole bunch of things and have you like narrating for them all the different pieces and what it's showing, you're going to lose them. And so how can you make things as direct and as basic as possible so that you take one look and you know exactly what they're trying to show you and why and what it says. It's a hard skill to get, one I'm still working on perfecting, and it's going to take, you know, lots of effort for us all to kind of get to that space for communicating with our programs, with our families, with each other. But that's what I would recommend.
That's excellent, and that's something that we're committed to too. Is even as part of that conversation with families, to let those conversations even inform how we can improve the visualization and the way we're communicating and collaborating around data. And I think our families will have so much to add to that conversation and to help us continuously improve what that visualization looks like. So I am having a little bit of technical difficulty reading the questions that have come in through the Q&A. So while I'm troubleshooting that with tech support, a couple of options. Either one, if you've submitted a question, if I hate to ask this, but if there's any way you could submit it in the chat, I think I might be able to
You
see.
want me to read the questions, Emily?
Oh, Melissa, that would be great. Melissa Nast, everyone, our Executive Director for Customer Success, is on the line. Melissa, that is excellent. Thank you.
Okay, great. So Carrie Dupree from Franklin County. As I'm monitoring our 19 local child care centers and 6 pre-K classes with our school system, now that we have most of our families enrolled, what data should I be looking at to see how much our centers and families and how they're using ReadyRosie?
I'd like to take that question, Melissa. This is Patty. I think that it's a wonderful opportunity at the beginning of the year, first of all, to set a goal as to how many families you would like to see your centers extend the opportunity for just the opportunity to register for ReadyRosie. And that's one of, as you are beginning your school year and you're looking at your mandates of your 30-day, your 45-day, your 60-day mandates, I would suggest that you're also taking a look at your ReadyRosie data to measure along the ways as you're enrolling families. But in addition to that, our ReadyRosie platform has the opportunity for you to monitor by each center. And another great report that I would have you take a look at to see where maybe some of your centers need that additional support to explain ReadyRosie. You may want to be reviewing reports to see where you may have to or want to add a little bit more information at your parent meetings, or a policy council, or like I shared in our presentation today. Why not take it to your advisory meetings at the beginning of the year? But all in all, as you are monitoring your reports for your center, I would highly recommend that you, first of all, again, take a look at your registered users, take a look at it by center, but then also make sure you're communicating that with your agency as well. You may want to share on a monthly basis your measurements of success as an agency, but also per classroom, per center.
Good.
Yeah, and I think if it's okay for me to chime in,
Please.
another opportunity is, and this likely might not be something you can do at the total upper level. You might need to get more down into your individual family service workers or classroom teachers, but is to look at the data and see which families are using ReadyRosie and kind of what topics they're focusing on and spending time with versus how that aligns with what they've stated as their family goals and what you're getting to see in their child's progress. Is an opportunity to see whether those things are aligning well or not, and to then enter into that conversation directly with them, which is to show, this is a goal that you have and something that we're noticing your child could use more help on, but we see that you're really kind of latching in on this one topic over here that you guys are really strong on, so absolutely keep focusing there. But what if we added in some time to focus on this subject over here that would help you reach the goals that you've stated?
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you, Patty. Thank you, Victoria. Melissa, is there another question? And I think
yes, and I just want to chime in too that Carrie, I'm also happy to help, or your support manager. We're happy to walk you through the data view and show you. I know that you just started using ReadyRosie, so when Patty's talking about pulling those reports, maybe you're not sure how to do that, and I'm happy to support you with that, or Rebecca, your support manager. So you have my email, Carrie. You can email me, and I'm happy to set that up. Okay, so I'm probably going to mess this name up. Janet or Janice, I'm not sure. Mason A, what's the typical goal of family participation in comparison to the funded enrollment? So I don't mind answering that if that's okay. That's one of the goals that we like to set up at your implementation call or action plan call. We recommend that you set a goal of between getting 50 to 60% of your families enrolled in ReadyRosie. That's our year one goal. We'd like you to aim for 50 to 60% of those families enrolled in the ReadyRosie program. And as Executive Director of Customer Success, it's one of my jobs to help you reach that goal. And so when we have touch point calls with you, your support manager has those touch point calls with you. We're happy to help you brainstorm ways to reach that goal. Okay, the next question from Debbie Rogers. Using the family level data, is there a way to show an overall program-wide data that shows the connections to the learning and family engagement outcomes that can be presented to our board or our policy council?
Specifically, Melissa, was that specifically with looking at overall ReadyRosie data? Is that?
It's from Debbie.
Yeah, I'll turn that over to Patty.
Yes.
Patty, do you want to take that?
Yeah, and I think at this point, I know that we are continuing to receive many suggestions from Head Start programs on how to just continue to elaborate more on our data views. We currently have, and Melissa, feel free to chime in with this, our data view is able to show per student your, based on the videos that families are using, the data views that show the alignment to the Head Start Early Learning Outcome Framework and the Parent-Family Engagement Framework. As we shared earlier, our videos are aligned to both of those frameworks. Those reports individually are currently available to print, to share, and give a snapshot from a center view, but I understand, Melissa, that we are working on administrator views.
Yes, and I don't know if
Sorry,
Melissa,
I was muted, but yes.
There you go. There you go. And that's exactly what I'll chime in as well. That's exactly what the next phase is that you can see that individual child view. We're consistently looking at that big picture connection between our parenting curriculum overall and how that's documenting the link to student outcomes, learning outcomes, but also parent learning opportunities as well, family learning opportunities as well. Melissa, we probably have time for one more question, just to be
okay, and there is just one more question, so that's perfect. So it comes from Richard Wolf, and Richard said that there isn't a good way to know from a top level which videos have been viewed or have parent interaction. How can a district or school level administrator know when the parents have viewed a video or marked a video as we did it without looking at individual parents? Is there an option to see all the data in one spot? And we appreciate that feedback, Richard, because as we were just talking about, we're working on that data, what we call, administrator level data, and that is something that, that type of feedback that we need from you as we work on that. And if you don't mind, I'm going to share my screen real quick, Emily.
Yep.
Because Richard also asked a question about, as an administrator, there's no way for us to know what these new numbers mean. So as an administrator, if you click on schools, you're suddenly able to see things like how many learning outcomes and how many family outcomes that particular center has participated in. And he said, how do I know what those are? So I'm going to open up a center here. Wrong one. I was going to open Roden Elementary. When you open that center, if you click on the name of it, you're able to see all those teachers. Or if you're, maybe a Head Start, you've got the family service workers. And so now you're able to see, for example, Mr. Roden's class has viewed over 4,000 videos. That's been, 26,000 learning outcomes, a crazy number. Of course, this is our ReadyRosie team here, so they're all rock stars. I'll use mine as an example. If you click on that teacher's name, then you're able to see some more details about that particular class. So I have several classes. I'll open one of my classrooms here, my terrific team classroom. But this is where you're able to see more details about each individual family and how many of those learning outcomes they participated in. Patty mentioned that most of our videos have multiple learning outcomes. And you're right, Richard. For now, you have to click on the individual student to see those. So, if I click on an individual student, I'm able to see that great data view that Patty shared in her PowerPoint, where I'm able to see not only what videos the family has viewed, but those learning outcomes that they have as a part of that. So if I click on language and literacy, for example, I can see that 16 learning outcomes attached to listening and speaking, 22 attached to phonological awareness, and so forth. And if I continue to scroll down, I can even see the specific videos they watched and how many learning outcomes were attached to it. But to answer your question, Richard, we appreciate that feedback, and I will definitely take that. Our content team is on this webinar as well, and they're the ones that are helping drive those new data views for administrators. So we appreciate that feedback, and we will definitely take that into consideration as we continue to enhance our district data view or admin data view.
Excellent, Melissa. Thank you for sharing. Now, before we end today, I did want to just offer up our grand prize. We have 3 of the powerful partnership. And Melissa, if you want to stop sharing, I can share my. There you go. share mine again. I wanted to close today with a quick poll, if you don't mind, that allows us to get a little bit of feedback from you all about how you benefited, further questions you might have, etc. So I hope everyone sees that poll and is able to fill out. I think there's just 4 quick questions, and we'll give you a very, very quick minute to do so, and then Melissa Nast will conclude our webinar with drawing those grand prizes. We really, really appreciate your time. We appreciate your feedback. We offer these webinars monthly, and always are looking for feedback of how we can improve, what additional information we can provide, additional amazing partners like Victoria from NHSA, that we can really have a holistic conversation about powerful partnerships with families. So if you don't mind, I'm hoping you were able to fill out that poll while I was talking here, and I will turn it over to Melissa to pick 3 grand prize winners.
Great, thank you. So we appreciate everyone's time and for joining us, and I have 3 winners of Dr. Karen Mapp's new book on powerful partnerships, and those winners are Kathy Holden from East Baton Rouge Parish Head Start in Louisiana, Michelle Davis from Heartland Head Start in Illinois, and Caitlin Cicero from Horizon Education Centers in Ohio. So we will be following up after this webinar with the 3 of you to get your mailing address, and we will get those books to you in the mail very soon.
Thank you. And Victoria, I just reshared my camera so we could say goodbye to your audience. So feel free to join us visually as well. But just wanted to give a big thank you to Victoria. The quality of work that you all are doing, and the way you're empowering all of us to be better at thinking about data, partnering with families around data is really inspiring, and we appreciate the real practical way that you brought that to actually impact student outcomes. So thank you. Yes, and thank you to Patty. Patty's been an inspiration and an advocate for families within our team at ReadyRosie, and we appreciate her continued support, and it's her input that has impacted a lot of the data visualization and data partnerships with programs that we've been able to forge as well. So thank you all for your time, and congratulations to the winners who just won Dr. Karen Mapp's new book. We'll be in touch with you to get the best address to send that to, and we're actually here at a conference with Dr. Karen Mapp, so I might even be able to get a signature on those books. If I can, I sure will. So y'all have a wonderful, wonderful day wherever in the world you are, and thanks for taking just a few minutes to talk about this important and critical conversation. Thanks, and have a great day.